All right, we're getting really close to start time. I think I'm going to just kind of do some introductions and then we'll be able to start right at 3. So, normally when I host these spaces with authors, I kind of hold questions until the end so that the author and I have a chance to chat. So, we'll kind of be talking for maybe 25 minutes or so. And then, depending on where our questions lead, if there's time at the end, sometimes guests have questions that they would like to ask. So if we don't have time for that, which sometimes happens, often happens, I suggest that they put their questions in the chat. And then that way the author is able to respond and kind of have time to think about the answers. And that's a nice way to kind of connect with readers. So just sort of just wanted to mention that in case that happens. Also, links and stuff can be put in the chat so that people have access to that. And I'll say this again at the end, but authors really count on reviews and ratings, especially on Amazon and platforms like that. So if you love the book, please tell the author and the world and leave a review. Okay. So I'm going to get started. And I'm really excited to be here today on Saturday. I'm your host, J.G Macleod, or Jen. I'm an author, and so I really love having these conversations with other authors and kind of talking about our craft. And so I wanted to welcome my special guest today, Batter, and it's Shella City. But we'll be talking more about that. But that's the book that we're going to be kind of chatting about today. And I'm really excited. There's a lot of really unique aspects of this that we'll be getting into. But first, I just kind of wanted to welcome my guest and ask if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself to kind of get us warmed up today.
Thank you, Jen. Really pleasure to be with you today. My name is Badr NS. I'm the author of Shella City novel series. And I've been, while it's my debut novel, before that, I've been writing multiple short stories. Some of them made it to blogs, some were just like left in the drawers. And I enjoy imagining different societies and test different aspects when it comes to the extremes of that people can live in. Whether if it's a glamorous utopia or an awful dystopia. So I'm really pleased to be here today, and I'm welcoming all your questions.
That's great. That's a nice start. I think a lot of us can empathize with that, having a bunch of stories that we've kind of tucked away and they're sitting there almost kind of haunting us in a way. And then we finally maybe get that larger work out, or the one that we're actually going to share with the world. So congratulations for doing that at this point. That's really nice to hear. And it's very successful so far. I was reading lots of the comments that people are leaving on platforms, and they're enjoying it. So that's nice for an author to hear that too. The description of the book. So Shella City, you describe it in a really interesting way, because it sounds like both it has that utopian feel to it, but at the same time, you've got the fantasy, the sci-fi, there's fashion. And you even mention in the blurb that there's dystopian elements too. So there's that kind of underside of that. You've got modeling becoming a superpower. And I'm just curious, what's the inspiration behind this? Because it is very niche and very unique. So, did you just happen to love fashion and modeling, or is there some other story behind that?
That's a really interesting question, because if someone just came to me 3 years ago and told me that I'll be publishing my first novel, I would have thought of multiple options, but a fashion-themed fantasy wouldn't be one of them. In fact, in 2023, I've been noticing a pattern in almost all societies. 20 years ago, hard work and a university degree used to pay off. Nowadays, they no longer serve anybody, and they can't even pay off. And when we look around us, people who made success in life are people who are first of all known to be emotionally intelligence and have super social skill and have social connections, of course. And in a lot of times, it's also about nice looks. So I started to wonder, what if someone or a person or a group of people might have this as a superpower? What How would life they would look like? Of course, I would always imagine them to live in a glamorous life, and they usually become CEOs and executives, and also owners of entrepreneurs with huge and successful businesses. And also, they happen to be influencing society and even influencing politics. So um, I started to examine and imagine multiple characters with that kind of superpower and how they can influence people around them and how can they like basically lead the societies they're in. And I always like compare them to like real world figures, whether from the history or from the modern world. One of out of these imaginary characters, someone stood out. CEO Randall of Domania. Randall was pretty much different. It's a very complex character with multiple layers. Randall is a per- is actually a model and also an owner of a modeling and ads agency that grew up and became very prominent. That he utilized what he called the image theories, social and economic theories that he wrote while working inside the fashion market, and utilized them to build this empire. And also, he's a life coach. He coached people on these theories. I started to imagine, after writing multiple short stories about Randall, is what could be a world where his ideas become real. And I realized that it should be, first of all, it should be a capitalist utopia. It should be a place where government never interferes in economy, and also it should be free from from the typical ideologies, uh, and that's where people strive the most to become better version of themselves always. It also happened to be. I also realized that it should be a city built by fashion. We are aware of that in our world there are some big cities that we call fashion capitals. Shella City is more like an advanced form of a fashion capital, and also very modernized with lots of innovation. And there's a backstory and a long history behind this city, because it occurs in a parallel universe similar to us, but because of multiple circumstances that have been told in the history of Shella City world. The city came to life, and the people inside Shella happened to evolve inside a fashion-driven market. In that city, racism does not exist because people are mixed and they don't recognize ethnicities or races. There is no genderism or homophobia because genders are fashion terms. And we can go on and on about how Shella City look like, but I really, really invite you to read this book and and discover a world that is really different. But what happens to people there is could happen to anybody who live a luxurious life from the beginning. So it's like first world or like an ultra first world society.
It's fascinating, all of the different kind of genres that this book include. You mentioned all of the different elements and your inspiration coming together. And even way back at sort of the start, you mentioned what it was that you were kind of thinking about what the world's like today, right? And how much that has changed. And when I was kind of thinking about this interview, I thought a lot about the students I teach are at the very end of high school, ready to kind of launch off and start their adult lives. And you mentioned how difficult things have sort of become, which inspired you to write a book about more of the utopian elements. If you could give advice, or if you could talk to young people today and kind of using your book as maybe the inspiration, what would you say to them about those realities that you mentioned, how tough it is?
Sure. So, first of all, my first advice to everybody is that it's okay to think big, it's okay to dream, and it's okay to strive to reach your dreams. But uh, just the only advice is that when you reach the level of achievement, you you might not be satisfied. You might not be easily satisfied. You might, for example, reach a high level in your job or earn the degree that you dreamed for. But the moment you reach there, you will find out that you will celebrate for one day or a few days, but later you will that dream will become your reality, and you will continue striving for more. And that's really when you will have to reconsider your priorities in life, and you should realize that and that's basically what Shella City is themed about. You should realize that the meaning of brand isn't just the brand that you find in products. It also applies to everything in life. The brand is what sometimes gives something value bigger than what it seems, and that's when you start valuing certain aspects of life, and and sometimes people. Sometimes there are people that you think they are like way superior, and probably this value might not be real. It might be arbitrary.
And that ties in really well with high school, right? Because there's a lot of social pressure, and this book sounds like it kind of intersects with that same kind of pressure that people feel, but just in the adult world. So it's kind of taking it beyond, once people graduate and they get out into the career world. Your book is really focusing on how that's still a thing for adults that they kind of have to deal with that their whole lives. And you also mentioned that what we see, sort of that first impression that there's more to people, that they're complex, and you've got a character, a villain, who on the surface seems very, very good. And so, tell me a little bit about how you came to create Randall, who's sort of acting the good guy role.
Randall is a very unique character. First of all, the way he's described in the book is also very unique. He doesn't look like any person. He's like really handsome. He has platinum silver hair, a white diamond skin, and blue sapphire eyes. So he looks like a jewel, and his look is a dark humor by itself. And he's too perfect that everyone is striving to reach his level. So, and he's pretty much using that to manipulate people, and then used everybody in Shella and also in even people in the world, even the partner cities. He started to use them to test and apply his theories. He has his own superpower, the elegance codes, which serve are as the magic system inside Shella City, but it also has a sci-fi element to it. Uh, uh, you can think of terms like subliminal messages. So basically, when he speaks, or when he just looks at people around him, he can send these emotional pulses that can reach to the subconscious, the inner mind of people, and even change their mindset, or attract them to wherever he's speaking about. And this skill has been taught to multiple people, including the models of the mania, who are famously the ones that are going to be using it as a weapon during the story, and also it's going to be like the weapon later during the climax events. And also, he taught it to people that he's been coaching, the platinums, the people who hold the platinum membership, the blessed membership, and so on. And he's also he has also these secret parties uh, known as the Bless events, dedicated for the elites who blindly follow them. These parties are pretty much disturbing, and the guests see whatever they wish for under special drugs. These parties, by the way, can remind you of the elite parties culture that uh, you can hear about in the real world.
One thing that's kind of neat is it's got me kind of thinking of really famous books too. So even books like from, say, the 19 that are based in the 1920s with Great Gatsby and the very opulent elitist type of parties. And so I have these images in my head of your book being sort of on film and what that might look like, which is kind of neat. But there's a lot of social messages here. And I think, again, like I said before, this is bringing forth almost warnings for people, which maybe ties into that dystopian undercurrent that you mentioned. There's the character Megan. So she, if I'm pronouncing that right, just she is captivating in her own way. So what's her journey about in this book?
So Megan is introduced as a celebrity model and also Randall's lover. She's also on the cover. Megan is from a family that owns Shella Bank. It's the richest family inside the small prestige society, and this prestige society is are the like the elites, an aristocratic society who basically control everything in a luxurious city, which is also the richest city in the world. So she literally has everything, and the rest of the mania models, especially the divas, envy her because of all the privileges that she has. Although they are far advanced in performance than her, but she's still not satisfied. She's trying to live up to her title, Face of Beauty and Elegance of Shella, and tries to be as powerful and influential as Randall. Uh, until she hears a recording between Randall and her father, the owner of Shella Bank, that changes everything, and then she realizes that she's being used as a balance card between Randall and the prestige, and that will trigger her long journey to discover her truth, and it will reach to a really big moment later on.
It's fabulous. What a great story arc for her. A lot of self discovery in the characters. Of all the characters, and we didn't kind of plan to talk about this, but because you've just described a couple of the specific characters, is there a character that's your favorite? Somebody that you really enjoyed writing the most? Like, would it have been Randall, or did you like Megan's story arc the best?
So something special about Shella City that it has multiple POVs, and that's because there are a lot of interesting characters, whether if it's from the rebels who've been plotting against Domania under the ground, led by Mila and Fallon. Both of them are amazing characters with very great backstories. They uh, they plotted for their with their group for a rebellion, and they started to interact, or let's say clash. Somehow they're on a crossroad with Megan and several of the models of Domania, and that pretty much was the spark that ignited the rebellion, and which later became a civil war without army. That's also an interesting fact. So I can go on and on about multiple characters, but I'll mention Mila as one of the characters that I loved writing about because of her special social justice sense, and her way of challenging the big heads in Shella City, sometime during the city. And also, of course, Megan's journey is also amazing and fabulous, and it has its own drama. There are also multiple other characters that I can speak about for hours. But these are the top ones.
Oh, that's fantastic. That was actually going to be my next question, was about how many characters there are, because the early pages, either it's fairly slow paced kind of to get into the early pages to get introduced. There are a lot of characters, so it's just loaded with characters' names, a lot of description to try to world build, right, and get us immersed in the city. So readers might wonder, is this going to be the whole story? Is this what it's going to be like? And I wondered if you wanted to talk to sort of the style of the book.
Yeah, that's a really great observation. It's actually intentional. So the book is around 500 pages, and it has a lot to offer. In the early chapters, we step in a world that became too perfect after Randall and his agency Domania have made and built for Shella City. Especially, it's called the Golden Age of Shella City, and at that time, Shella City is living at its best, and that's where we start to wonder where could go wrong, because the early chapters sound like everything's perfect, and we start to see it from different angles. What, from the POV of the people who are benefiting from the system, and also from the point of view of people who disliked it, like Mila and Fallon. So we st- so and there's a cost, that there is a hidden cost that we start to realize about the people who are being too attached to their image goals, and they strive for them, and they seek more from Randall. And that's where we start to notice the problems being building up through the under the glamorous surface, whether from the point of view of Dominion models, or from the rebel group. And then we few chapters ahead, and we see how the rebellion that was plotted by Mila and Fallon escalate to cause the first civil war in Shella's history. So the story becomes fast-paced midway, with a lot of surprises and a twist, and a lot of mysteries will start to unravel slowly.
So it's almost like we need that slow start and that slow build up, or like the payoff wouldn't be as good, right? You have to have that, giving us the little clues before we realize what this city is really like, and learning what the characters are really like too, especially Randall and that. So no, that makes a lot of sense. The dystopian elements in this book, I'm just curious what other maybe comparable titles there would be to this, just or what other things that readers might really love that might be familiar to this story, just to kind of make those connections to the readers and the style.
Yeah, so that's actually so okay. So first of all, the readers of Shella City will notice a direct resemblance to real life. It goes from every little details that they can read about, and that's first of all, they will start to realize that while we're talking about imaginary society, is that whatever applies to the people of Shella can apply to every society in the world, especially when the focus on the image as individuals and as societies grow. And also, uh, uh, everything about Domania itself will remind you of real world stories about modeling. So people who follow the stories about fashion world, and also somehow, to some extent, the stories of celebrities, will find a lot of references to real world, from the darkest one to the most intriguing. Also, the sci-fi theme, represented by the innovation theme, inshallah, will also remind you about the cost of over-reliance on AI, on technologies. That's a very common theme throughout the story. And also the real-world topics on genetics and medical advancements, and how it became about serving social image than the real benefits. And of course, as I mentioned, the concept of brand, and the concept of human centrism, and how that could be like an advancement. It could be a plus, and also it could be uh, like a huge disadvantage on the same time.
You've woven in a lot of current events. This is very timely. A lot of things that people are worried about and thinking about. So that's great. Spec fiction often kind of asks, like, what if this happened, or what if we went further down this path? And you can see that, you've kind of pondered that and considered those things in your storyline. So that's great. This is a question I didn't think about until just this moment. Is there a sequel planned? Have you thought about taking this into multiple books?
Great question. So regarding Shella City, this is the first book within a series. Yes, I'm planning to publish, and first of all, I'm going to planning to publish the second book uh, down the road. I'm working on that, and also there will be some novellas and short stories that act as a prequel to Shella City novel itself. So the world is really huge, and it can, of course, accommodate a lot and a lot of stories.
And where can people find this book? Where's the best place for them to look for Shella City?
So currently, Shella City is available on Amazon Kindle. It's available as ebook and paperback. The audio version will be also coming down the road during this year. So there are also when you type in Google Shella City, you will find also multiple other sources to buy at least the hard copy of the book, and also try to avail the ebook through other platforms other than Amazon.
I was just curious about
Well,
the title of the book and kind of the inspiration behind that. So now that we know where we can find it, and when I did just a Google search, and I was able to see lots of things come up when I typed in Shella City. How did you come up with that and that title specifically for the city, and then the title of the book?
In fact, the name of Shella City has its also special story. It's actually, so I didn't select that name. I imagined the name. In fact, my whole writing process is more imaginative and speculative than rather than me as the author deciding what the characters want to do, and also what do they name themselves or name the city. So the name came through imagination while I was discovering through the lives of the characters. I could. I'm also. There is a long history for Shella City when the founders, 75 years before noble events, have sought a treaty to with the UN members to establish Shella City as a political, as a neutrally a political neutral and an economic free city. The name Shella could be driven from the word shell because of the way how it's isolated, or it could be basically because of it just sounds great. So all those could be the possibilities. I considered naming the novel and the whole novel series on as Shella City. There is actually there's actually interesting information that when you reach the final page, you will realize that you will realize the subtitle of the novel, so, which is Shella City Platinum King, and that's like an indication about the sequel, which is going to be called also Shella City with with a subname.
Yeah, that's perfect. Like just a subtitle, so then you can have a series of books that are always Shella City, but with a subtitle. I like that. Really good. And the idea you said it's protected, so it's like the hard shell, but also it's beautiful. You've described this as an opulent place to be, very luxurious. So I think that's very neat. Just before we go, my final question that I have, and I'll see if people have questions. But what's been the biggest kind of learning curve for you with just the writing, the publishing, the marketing, that if there's anyone listening who wants to get into writing, what have you noticed and what would you advise them?
Since you're also an author, so I'm sure that you've gone through the same difficulties and also the awesome moments that I've gone through. In fact, so it's so I used to when I used to write in the beginning, I used to write for myself, and even this story when I started to write it, I wasn't thinking that it's going to be published. I was just thinking that it's going to be just one of the other stories. But I found out that it stood out. It's found out that it's really interesting and can really go to publishing. And of course, when I started to work through the editing and the design and the publishing and the marketing journeys, of course, I've got a lot of lessons. But what I realized after all that we as authors, we don't really compete with each other. We are competing with mobile phones, to be more honest with you, because people are nowadays the novel readers are reducing because of the shift to social media and the use of mobile phones, and even those who read might also lose focus easily or don't pay attention to the details as much. That's, by the way, also a challenge that even cinemas and TV shows are facing. So, what about books that are even so that's even more difficult? And getting so we as authors we have a message that if we're getting people who stopped reading, but if your book managed to gain people who stopped reading back into the reading world, that's a really plus, not just for you, but to every other author. And also, if you manage to encourage people who haven't read any novels before to read your novel, that means, and they liked it, and then they started reading other books. That's a great effect that you made to this world. So that's pretty much my advice.
That's a really positive way of thinking about it, because I think we often focus on how difficult it is, right? But your point is that if somebody does, buy and pick up your book and reads it, and not even if they give it a rating or a review, which is, we always hope for that, but just if they actually are reading your book, that they could have done so many other things, but they chose that, right? They chose to do that. And I think you're right. There's a lot of distractions and things that we're focused on. And it's just kind of a sign that people still do want to read. They still want literature in their life. And your audiobook's going to come out this year, so it just gives them a different way to read if print isn't their thing. So I think that's a great final message. Does anyone have any questions? I'll just see if there's any questions in the chat. But do you want have a final point you want to make before we just kind of sign off here? I don't see any questions there in the chat. Just kind of checking to see if anyone had anything specific that they wanted to ask, but I don't think so. Do you have a final comment that you would like to say before we sign off here?
So I reiterate my message about thanking you for inviting me here. I'm really glad to connect with you and with everybody in this awesome community. And of course, so I would really encourage everybody to not just to read Shella City, to read books that challenge your mindsets, read books that provoke you, and also to also give some books chances. They might seem like too odd at the beginning, but later on you realize that they are way more awesome than they seem. So I really wish everybody good luck.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much for your time, Better. What I will do now is I will edit up the interview, and I always put it on my YouTube, and then I will advertise it as well with your book link, so we can hopefully get you some more readers and just some more people to enjoy that, the world that you've created. So thanks so much for coming today.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day. Bye now.